Implant planning. To plan an implant, click on the Plan tab at the top of the screen. It is generally advised to use the panoramic workspace or the implant workspace for implant planning. We will show you here how to plan implants using the panoramic workspace. We have selected the last icon at the right lower corner of the panoramic view to visualize the OPG or Panorex. In the event there would not be any prosthetic information available, meaning no radiographic guide has been used, the implant positions can still be defined based on anatomical requirements. In this case, it is convenient to plan the implants first on the OPG or Panorex and fine-tune the position afterwards on the cross-section to ensure the implant is positioned correctly in 3D. To do so, click on the implant icon in the upper left corner of the screen. Move your cursor to the panoramic view. Indicate the implant position by indicating first where the implant platform interface should be located. Then, in the bone, indicating the direction of the implant in the neighborhood of the prospective implant apex. The product selection window will appear, enabling selection of the implant manufacturer, implant system, and the compatible abutments. The implant manufacturers available in the product selection window are defined in the user settings. See section My Office Module, General Preferences, and Account Details for more information. There is also a filter at the left of the window to help you defining the implant type you would like to place. The default length that is selected in the selection window to the right is the length closest to the distance between the 2 points you have indicated. You can change this just by left-clicking on the preferred length. The implant length is immediately updated in the planning scene. You can also select the correct diameter and platform or connection, depending on the selected implant. Press Select Product in the right lower corner. The implant will appear in this position on the OPG or Panorex and in the 3D scene. To adjust the implant position in 3D and to check the bone surrounding the implant, attach the cross-sectional reslice to the implant instead of following the jawbone arch. Click on the Attach to Implant option in the Crossed Editor toolbar at the right of the screen. The implant position can be refined on the cross-section by grabbing the green cylinder in the middle of the implant to move it as a whole, or the red dots to rotate the implant around the platform interface or around the apex. The yellow line around the implant represents a safety zone of 1.5 mm around the implant body and 3 mm at the implant apex. The implant can also be modified in the 3D viewer by grabbing the green bar to move the implant as a whole, or the red dots to change the implant angle. To inspect the bone surrounding the implant in detail, you can also rotate the reslice around the implant axis. To do so, position the cursor over the cross-sectional view and use the scroll wheel. Adjust the implant position and length if needed. If the implant or sleeve colors orange or red, a planning warning is triggered. See section Planning Warnings for more information. Once happy with the implant position, move on to the next implant site, following the same approach. In the event that you also have the planned prosthetic situation available, meaning the radiographic guide as your tooth setup reference has been created, the planning process is advised to be slightly different. Now the prosthetic situation will be the start point to define the implant position. We position the cross-sectional reslice where the implant should preferably be positioned from prosthetic point of view. To do so, use the Set Focus action and left-click at the desired implant location in the 3D scene. The cross-sectional reslice is also visualized in the reslice viewer, and its position is also shown as a blue line on the OPG or Panorex. The rotation of the reslice should be positioned perpendicular to the mandibular or maxillary arch. Move the slider to adjust the rotation. In the event you would like to plan angulated implants, select the mesiodistal tilting icon and move the slider or enter a value representing the amount of degrees to rotate. Next, click on the implant icon in the upper left corner of the screen to start planning an implant. Move your cursor to the cross-sectional reslice viewer. Indicate the implant position by indicating first where the implant platform interface should be located. Then indicate a second point in the neighborhood of the implant apex. The product selection window will appear again, enabling selection of the implant manufacturer, implant system, and the compatible abutments. Select the preferred implant type, length, and diameter, and press Select Product in the right lower corner. The implant will appear in this position, the desired implant site from prosthetic and anatomical point of view. The implant is visible on the cross-section, in the 3D scene, and on the OPG or Panorex. Here the implant position can still be refined. In the 2D scene, by grabbing the green cylinder to move the implant as a whole, or the red dots to rotate the implant around the platform interface or the apex. In the 3D viewer, the implant position can be adjusted by grabbing the green bar to move the implant or the red dots to change the implant angle. If you would like to inspect the bone surrounding the implant, attach the reslice to the implant axis. Move your cursor over the cross-sectional reslice viewer and use the scroll wheel to rotate the reslice around the implant axis. In the event you would have planned already more implants, you can also check the surroundings of the next implant by clicking on Next in the crossed editor toolbar. Once happy with the implant position, move on to the next implant site. There are also more advanced functionalities related to the implant type and the implant location. These options become available in the Implant tab when an implant is selected. For example, to adjust the implant platform, diameter, or length, select the implant by left-clicking on the implant and choose the preferred platform, diameter, and length at the top left in the Implant tab. An implant can be defined as a favorite implant by selecting the implant and press Add to Favorites in the Implant tab. You can define a name, and in the Advanced Options section, you can define the order of how the favorite implant should appear in the Plan tab. Press OK. To place a favorite implant, go to the Plan tab and click on the appropriate favorite implant icon. Indicate 2 points, representing the platform interface and the orientation of the implant. The implant is immediately positioned. You can also plan an implant, which is automatically placed parallel with an already planned implant. This can make implant planning faster. To do so, select first the implant you would like to copy the orientation from. Next, click on the parallel implant icon in the top left in the Implant tab. And as the last step, indicate the position of the platform interface. An exact duplicate of the implant will automatically appear, with its platform interface located at the indicated position. The position can be still modified if necessary. It is also possible to change the depth or rotation of an implant. Select the implant and click on Depth or Rotation in the Implant tab. Use the slider to change the depth or rotation. To change the depth, it is also possible to enter a value instead of using the slider. As long as the implant position will not be changed with the green handle or red dots in the 2D or 3D scene, this value will be kept. You can also parallelize all planned implants. To do so, select the implant with the orientation you would like to apply to all other planned implants. Next, press Parallelize All in the Implant tab. The platform interface of all implants stays at the same position, but the orientation of the implants will change, becoming parallel with the selected implant. If you are not happy with the achieved result, you can revert by simply clicking the Undo button. It is also possible to measure the 3D angle between two planned implants. To measure this angle, select the first implant. Next, press on Implant Angle icon in the Implant tab, followed by selecting the second planned implant. The angle between both implants will be shown in the 3D scene, and when the measurement is selected, the angle will also appear in the status bar in the lower left corner of the screen. When abutments have been planned for both implants, the angle between abutments will be shown as well. In case this workspace does not provide you enough detailed information about the correct positioning and the structure surrounding the implant, you can decide to change to the cross-sectional workspace to get a more detailed view. Click on Change Workspace under the Tools toolbar at the right of the screen and select this workspace. The workspace shows 3 cross-sections. These cross-sectional reslices can also be visualized in the 3D scene by selecting the cross-sectional reslice and selecting Visible Slices icon in the Cross-Sectional tab at the top left. Check all 3 reslices. The perpendicular, parallel, and horizontal reslice are now also visible in the 3D scene. When the reslice is attached to the implant axis and the cursor is positioned over the vertical scene, the scroll wheel can be used to rotate around the implant axis. This enables you to check the positioning of the adjacent implants and tooth roots. Distances can be measured here as well. For example, the distance between the apex of the implant and the nerve. Select the Diagnose tab at the top of the screen and select Distance to take the measurement. Click Next to move to the next implant. If an implant is not positioned correctly, this can be adjusted in this view by using the green bar or red dots in the 3D view, or by using the green cylinder or red dots in one of the cross-sectional views. Continue checking the remaining implants by using the Next button to move to each implant. If you would like to focus on a certain view more, left-click on the bar between 2 views and keep your left mouse button down to drag the bar. The size of the views will update accordingly. To return to the panoramic workspace, click on the Change Workspace icon and select this workspace.